Your 8-minute question and answer period will now begin. How did you manage to meet and plan for your projects as a team despite COVID-19 restrictions?
Great question. We were primarily on Zoom. We had weekly and bi-weekly meetings with the entire team, and individual project teams would also meet by Zoom. Lucky enough, we are in a place where COVID has not necessarily taken over everything, and we were able to meet in person twice this year, which we are extremely lucky for.
Just to add on to what Sarah mentioned, we were also able to utilize our school's license for Microsoft Teams to kind of have a sharing abilities for files and other kind of documents that need to be touched up or edited between us all.
What did not go well this year, and what did you learn from it?
One of our projects, Cash Grab, touches heavily on helping out students, younger students, people in elementary school with financial literacy. And something that we faced at the end of last year and what continued throughout all of this year was being able to penetrate into the school board system and actually gain access to those students. Last year, we were able to, again, touching on what Sarah's point, we were in Halifax. There's periods of time where COVID was almost non-existent and the restrictions were low. We were able to get small groups of younger family members around for those involved to take kind of polls and surveys. But it became difficult, anything in person, which one of our projects was heavily based on. We were able to kind of take that time though to step back and to use it for extra developing and research of our actual product and our services that we could provide. So in the end, it kind of came forth that we might actually be better off once we do go to market and once we really push and market our product.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say on that is contingency planning is something that we definitely have learned this year, and continuation as well. So just expecting the unexpected and having some kind of written plans for if something doesn't necessarily go our way is something that we learned as well.
How does your team define success?
I guess I'll take the first stab at this. I was the lead and developer of Plantback, and how I defined success throughout my planning period was taking short-term goals and having kind of long-term virtues within that organization and being able to always apply those virtues or characteristics while addressing those short-term goals, so not contradicting them. Whether the goal was hit or missed, always try to find a silver lining and a chance to sort of rebound or come or circle back to a problem. I wasn't able to get to market in time this year with our product, so that's one big miss that the project did have. However, the project isn't based heavily on certain targets for revenue. There weren't any other competitors that hit market yet as of now, so there's almost no failure or backlash against that lack of success in the sense of reaching that target and timeline wise. A major way that I know some of the other projects touch on, just branching out, would be seeing how many different downloads they had. We have another app, the different stars and reviews that they have, the amount of reviews they have, the amount of people that really interact, how they interact. There's a lot of KPIs you can measure and record when you do have scalable projects that use this kind of technology.
Yeah, I think Josh touched on a really nice point. So often we see success measured in impact, especially when we're kind of working in this social environment. But Nationals-Dalhousie doesn't have a necessarily long history of having big projects. So something that we also consider successful here at Nationals-Dalhousie is having a really strong foundation for all of our projects. So they don't necessarily need to be bringing in large numbers. to me, and I think to a lot of the team, as long as we feel like the project has a strong grounding framework that they can build off of, along with a strong continuation plan, we would consider that project successful.
Do you have plans to scale your projects? Why and how?
Yes, Sarah, mind if I go at this one? So we are missing some individuals that were representing Cash Grab and Cycle, two of our projects. I was on Cash Grab last year, and I'm in charge of Plant Back. Plant Back and Cash Grab, I'll touch on. They're two mobile apps, so they're very scalable projects. We plan on scaling them in a few different ways. For Cash Grab, it's getting into different school boards and districts. There's different routes that we may take depending on which one is more accepted based on those school boards. That may be licensing the software to the teachers, licensing it to the school board, licensing it to the school, or a more ambitious one would be pre-downloads onto actual hardware. That's a common method with educational software that's been kind of tried by fire throughout the last decade or so. With Plant Back, one of the main scalabilities, Plant Back is the way the business model is set up. It's purely variable as of right now. It'll be easy to scale up at the beginning. And then as we scale using through Firebase as our backend, the pricing scheme becomes cheaper and cheaper marginally for all the kind of authentication, sign-ins, and storage and server fees. So scaling will be easy in a sense to get going. Once we reach a certain threshold, though, it's likely to have to switch off of the backend Firebase and switch into Amazon or create our own servers. That threshold is really high. We don't expect to hit that kind of threshold of use cases and users for another 2-3 years. So that issue has been outside of the scope or reach of what we've been planning for at this time.
Yeah, and for our other project, Cycle, in terms of scalability, again, like I was saying, something that we consider really successful is a solid foundation. So this year has been spent kind of building that solid foundation for Cycle. So gaining a partnership with a juice company called Sprout Therapy was one of our core foundational elements. So from that partnership, we're hoping to get the juices out to market next year. So that's kind of how we plan to scale. And we're just looking at the Halifax market right now, not trying to go too broad and bite off more than we can chew. But in that same way, we've seen Cash Grab have some local impact in the city. And we'd love to see that impact extend beyond Halifax next year.
Your time is now expired. Thank you, Nationals-Dalhousie University.